Ask yourself the question as to who's really making money in South Africa at the moment. Is it the large corporates? Yeah, they make a lot of money. But who has grown really quickly over the last decade in South Africa? The fastest growing companies in South Africa have tended to tap the mass market. Maybe it's the bottom of the pyramid. Certainly that's a theory that comes out in a book called New Markets, New Mindsets. And Tashmia Ismail is a key researcher at GIBS. She's a member of the faculty at GIBS, and she's also the person who runs the Bottom of the Pyramid program. And it's your book. And that photograph was taken on a BlackBerry.
Yes, in Alexandra Township.
And it kind of illustrates, I suspect, how the world has changed.
Absolutely.
30 years ago, you said, I'm going to take a photograph on a mobile phone. People have said, what's a mobile phone? 30 years later, we're publishing books with photographs taken on BlackBerries.
Absolutely. The phone's with you all the time, and it's being used for transactions, it's being used to communicate, it's being used to buy insurance.
And increasingly, and one of the case studies in this particular book is a company called Blue Label. It's a technology company that distributes airtime all over South Africa, parts of Africa, into India, and now in Mexico as well. They tapped the bottom of the pyramid. Explain.
Absolutely. So their model's not just prepaid airtime. They do prepaid electricity. Any good that can be digitized, they will offer you on your mobile phone. Their applications now run into the banking space, and in India, because the airtime market's been cut so severely by regulation, they're actually specializing in banking, and they're the partners of the State Bank of India, ICICI Bank. So yes, anything that can be done on a digital platform, on a mobile phone, which increasingly is almost everything, Blue Label can do.
And what's interesting about them is they don't get fancy and too clever about a distribution mechanism. They look at what exists in a market and they go, let's piggyback on that. Mexico is a great example.
Oh, not just piggybacking on basic technology, but also piggybacking on local partners. They collaborate with family-owned businesses in the countries that they move into. So in India, they're with an Indian family in the company called Oxygen, and in Mexico with Grupo Bimbo. So it's very much around relationships within those communities, within those economies, and also tapping into the ecosystems that exist there. They talk about themselves being an ecosystem company.
Large companies will tell you that they've got their core business, and then they will experiment, and they will work on the periphery somewhat, and they'll try and work other things out, and they will tell you how successful they have been. Now, one company that has been very successful, or was very successful before it pulled out of South Africa, was Danone. Danone developed special nutritional yogurts for an emerging market and made a suitable price point, empowered salespeople in communities, and that is a remarkable story of great success.
Yes. It was a remarkable story of success. I think they experienced quite a few hiccups early on, which is what you expect, because you need to experiment, you need to fail, and you need to try again. And right at the point when they were ready to scale this business model, management changed. And this is one of the learnings in the book, is you need to have buy-in across the organization. You can't have these business models for low-income markets being housed separately with people who aren't in the mainstream thinking of the organization. Because as soon as that changes, you risk losing all of your investment. Now, Danone pulled out of this new fortified nutritional yogurt that was available only in townships, and the gap has now been filled by Nestle. So it was a great product, it was needed, and the issue here was not around the product, it was around management.
The trouble is,
pity.
If you drop the ball, you've done the hard work, and a rival simply steals your idea.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely, because Danone did all the research on dairy in townships, saw that it wasn't there, it was a big gap in the diets of people living on those incomes, identified what needed to go into the yogurt. Lots of R&D went into the development. You didn't need cold storage for 30 days. So there was R&D there, and all of that investment has been lost, and the market was created, the paths were created for the acceptance of a dairy product, and yes, Nestle filled that gap.
And of course, the great South African example, of course, is Capitec, in a country where more than half the people in the country don't have a bank account, or didn't have a bank account at the time Capitec was being started up. It was seen as high-risk, crazy micro-lending venture, but it's been one of the great financial services success stories of this country.
Absolutely. So Capitec Bank was really interesting, is that when they started out, it was not by bankers, not by banking thinking. It was retail thinking almost. How do we keep our overheads really low? How do we use high-tech systems to make it slick and efficient? How do we get low-income earners who don't have the time in the day in and out of our branches really fast? They also completely changed the way banking documents looked. They have policies around keeping banking documents to a page and the language really simple and the font really big. I mean, this is not rocket science.
No.
There's really basic modifications to the business model which changed banking for low-income consumers, just making it more accessible. Also using very first-world technology to service third-world customers. So it was biometric systems. If your ID book gets lost or washed away in a river or shack fire, you always have your fingerprint with you. And I think biometrics are the way of the future, and this kind, leveraging this kind of technology is the way of the future for low-income markets.
But here we've got revolutionaries revolutionizing the market, and corporates are sitting back and allowing them free rein.
Well, when you have, and this is a big area of study for us now, is when you have corporates serving dual markets, that is, they have to serve first world and third world customers in the same economy. There's a huge tension within the organization around disrupting the assets and the business models and the thinking of very established players within the firm. And often these business models are saying, well, we have long-term horizons before we see profit. We have completely different goals. Often there are development goals locked into what we're doing. And it just goes against the whole corporate ethos. So there's going to be a lot of resistance. And we do see this. This is why the book's called New Mindsets, because to get into these new markets, really the mindset has to shift away from high margin to scale and low margin.
Tashmia Ismail with her book, New Markets, New Mindsets, revolutionizing the way big companies need to think about brand new markets.